The reason why Back to the Future Part 2 is so dark is because one of the original movie's key cast members refused to reprise his role in the sequel. Back to the Future Part 2 follows on from the cliffhanger ending of the first Back to the Future, as Doc Brown takes Marty McFly into the future to prevent his son from making a huge mistake. But then, it takes a grim turn when Doc and Marty return to a dystopian alternate version of the present. This dark turn fit in with a trend of sequels going darker than their predecessor. The trend originated with The Empire Strikes Back and could later be seen in movies like The Dark Knight and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But the Back to the Future sequel wouldn't have been so dark if one of the main actors from the first film had returned. His refusal to come back for the sequel necessitated a shocking storyline in which his character died. Crispin Glover's absence led to Back to the Future Part 2's dystopian future. Bob Gale had to kill off George McFly because they lost his actor. According to the DVD featurette Making the Trilogy, Back to the Future Part 2 was forced to take a dark turn when Crispin Glover refused to reprise his role as George McFly. Screenwriter Bob Gale explained that the whole concept of a dystopian alternate 1985 in which George is just a name on a tombstone grew out of necessity when Glover turned down the chance to appear in the sequel. Gale explains that they had Lee Thompson and Thomas F. Wilson, but they didn't have Glover, so they had to work around that. Why Crispin Glover didn't return, and how Back to the Future Part 2 got around it. Glover disagreed with Robert Zemeckis about the movie's message. George McFly hanging upside down in Back to the Future Part 2. Glover refused to return to the Back to the Future franchise after disagreeing with director Robert Zemeckis on the first film's ending. Glover hated the fact that the supposedly happy ending revolved around the McFlys getting rich. He didn't think that filling their happier timeline with money and material possessions sent the right message. On top of that, he was dissatisfied with the amount of money he was offered to appear in the sequel, so he turned it down and they parted ways. George still technically appears in Back to the Future Part 2, but he's mostly played by stand-in Jeffrey Weissman, and he's only played by Glover in archival footage from the first film. After the midsection in which George is a tombstone, Marty goes back to 1955 and revisits the events of the original movie. Glover can be seen in various scenes from the first film, reusing footage he already shot for the previous production.